Hey guys, it's Steve here from CG Geek with part 3 of my Blender Olaf Snowman character creation series I've been doing in Blender. Yes, I said that. So in part 3, we'll be doing the materials and the rendering of our snowman, and this will probably be the third and final part, unless I get courageous and want to do more. But this might be it. So to start, I'm going to quick make his eyeballs a little bit smaller. I think they just look a little creepy big. Just a smidge. Let's pull that proportional editing up a little bit there. There we go. Scale them down just a smidge. Pull them in nice and tight there. And, alright. So, what I'm going to start with is, well, let's do that carrot. No, let's do the eyebrows. Eyebrows should come first because those are actually a little bit of modeling that we missed in the previous part. So let's just get that done really quick. So to do the eyebrows, I'm just going to duplicate one of these faces that I already have here. I'll just Shift D, duplicate that, P, and separate from selection. Well, hang on. Let me just do two faces at the same time. Alright. What happened to my face there? That's weird. There you go. Okay, so I just tabbed into edit mode, out of edit mode, Command Z to then tab back, if you were wondering. Let me just grab those two faces now. Alright, cool. And I'll Shift D those. So we have those faces there. Let's turn off clipping on our mirror modifier so we can pull those apart. Let's turn off proportional editing too. And there we go. So to turn off proportional editing is O. So I'm going to just take those now, pull them back in there a little bit. And let's give them some more vertices. So going to wireframe can help when it's inside the mesh. I'm going to go Control R and just get those faces, not the entire mesh. Might have to hide everything else. So just go Control I, and that will select everything but what was selected. It will inverse your selection, and then hit H to hide them. Okay, so you can still see it there, but the vertices aren't in your way. So now I can go Control R and put the vertices that I want in here. So I'll just put a few in there with Control R and a few in here. And that's good. And you kind of want to get the shape that you see on its eyebrows, obviously. So proportional editing will help now if I turn this back on. And we can just kind of round these off, scale these up a little bit there, pull them up a little bit, and basically form his expression in the eyebrows. So not hard. And he kind of has a curve at the end of his eyebrows here, so let's kind of pull them back like that, pull them back like that, and you can see that they're already looking really good. So just a little bit more tweaking, but they should be about there. Kind of pull this one in a little bit there, maybe make it a little bit skinnier at that point, and go out of wireframe. I think they're looking pretty decent. So what I can do is tab into edit mode now. They're kind of twisted there a little bit. Let's kind of fix that if we can. Just pull those back. You kind of want to keep the curve though, because they follow the face nicely then. Alright, so just pull those back, something like that. Straighten them up a little bit. Not too bad. And let's just extrude those out. So I'll start by pulling them inward a little bit, and then hit E to extrude, and turn off proportional editing, and then you can pull them outward. Something like that. It's not coming out quite enough yet. Gotta pull those bottom vertices out more. And when you can see it coming through everywhere nicely, you know you got it. So let's just keep pulling these out. Pull those out. Okay, we're getting there. Just, oh, that might be enough. So what I'm going to do now is add in a edge loop along the edge here to kind of straighten up those eyebrows. And we'll do that at the back too. And now we have that. Doesn't look too bad, although you can still see where it needs to be tweaked. It might help now if you turn off the mesh, or Option H to unhide the mesh. Sorry. And now we can just kind of play around with positioning these nicely, coming about the proper distance out of the head. So not tough, and they don't look too bad, if I do say so myself. Maybe I'll turn proportional editing on, but just connected, so I'm only adjusting the eyebrow when I move now. Might speed up my workflow a little bit. Alright, so to pull that out, not bad. And these might just be out a little bit too far. Pull them back a little bit. And these aren't out enough. Pull those out a little bit. And that looks to be about right. Pull those out. Pull those out a little bit. Cool. Those don't look too bad. Maybe raise them up a little bit though. So let's just grab those with C to circle select and kind of raise those eyebrows up a little bit. You'll have to tweak the amount that's coming out then as well, but I think that looks a little bit better. Cool. So we'll pull those out just a tad. We can't focus too much on this though because we have a bit of materials to cover still. Looks like this edge though is out too much and that's annoying me. So we fix that real quick. Pull that out and pull that out. Cool. Oh, this one too. There we go. So that looks pretty decent, not bad, and that will work. So what I'm going to do now is I'll start with the material on this carrot because it's just so tempting. It's just the best. It's the best part to start with, I guess. So before we get into the materials, though, we need some lighting. So for the lighting, I'm just going to take my lamp here and change it over to a sun. So choose sun lamp, and well, let's just delete that first and switch from Blender render over to Cycles render. All right. So for our world settings, I've switched to my world settings here. You're gonna go use nodes, and you're gonna pick a darker blue color, something like that. Not completely dark, but mid to darkish blue. And you're gonna want to give it about a 0.5 in the intensity strength, maybe 0.4. So a nice blue to kind of reflect the snow and sky. Simple blue. And now I'm going to add in a sun lamp. So lamp, and if you hover over it, you should get your sun lamp there. Just going to pull it up, give it a rotation angle of about, so nothing too fancy. And go to your sun settings here then. We'll give it a strength of about 4 and give it slightly orangish hue. And we'll see what that's looking like. If I switch to rendered view now, you can see not a bad clear render. Perfect for getting our materials set up. So let me quick switch to my GPU for rendering. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, you can use it for rendering in Cycles. So just change it there in the user preferences and switch to GPU. Otherwise, you're fine with CPU. If you don't have that option, just go with your CPU. So yes, this carrot is going to be what we materialize and texture first. So first we have to unwrap it, which is pretty simple. We're just going to tab into edit mode. We'll add in, well, we might not even have to add anything. Let's just go L, select the whole carrot, and let's open up our UV image editor over here. We already have it open here, but let's open the texture we'll be using. So this is a texture of CG textures. I'll give you the link, and you'll be able to find it pretty easy. It's just a carrot with a white background. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go U and cylinder projection. I'm going to go to top view to do it. U cylinder projection. And you can see you get your carrot unwrapped nicely. But let me quick see what I get. Okay. Cylinder projection. What if we go front view? You get different options with the cylinder project option depending on what view you're in. And I think top view will work fine for this though. We'll go cylinder projection. And basically what I need to do is split the mesh in half because you only see half the carrot texture. And obviously for the whole carrot you need to have it both sides. So I basically repeat the texture on both sides, hiding the seam so you don't even notice, and it looks good. Alright, so I was going to use the cylinder project option, but I just changed my mind. I decided what I'm going to do is basically unwrap it in 2 different sections real quick. So just switching to face select mode is a little bit easier here. In front view, I'm just going to select basically the one edge loop here, just option right clicking. Then I'm going to go Control plus and grab a few more edge loops there. And about that many will be good, I think. Looks about right. Now deselect the ones that you don't want here along the bottom. And well, let's take out one row here. Okay. cool. And you gotta get those behind there that you can't see too well either. Unselect. Alright. Cool, I have that back circle selected, that'll be fine. So now I'm just gonna go top view, U, unwrap. And you see you get a nice basic carrot shape. So that I can just rotate now, scale along the x-axis, and basically position that over my carrot. But the other half still needs to be unwrapped. So what I'm going to do is Control I, select those portions, and then go U unwrap as well. And I have basically two carrots here now that I just want to overlay on top of each other and basically position at the same spot. So now if I hit A and select everything, you can see both the portions that I unwrapped there. And you just kind of want to match them up in scale. So I'm just scaling it down and then scaling along the X. And basically just position it on that carrot nicely. Something like that. So you don't see any of the white. It's the main thing. If you don't see any of the white, you'll be good. So there we go. Got both of our meshes on the carrot. So that should be good for the UV unwrapping. So now I'm going to switch to my node editor up here. Well, we might want to leave Olaf up here just for reference, so maybe I'll do that down here. Switch to my node editor and give myself a little bit more room to work here. And close off that with N. Now let's go to our material tab and go new material. And you see the nodes pop up over here now. And so let's open up that texture right off the bat. I'm just going to go Shift A and we'll go input. We'll go texture, image texture, and then you can just grab that drop down there. And since we already opened the carrot texture, it's right there. Just grab it, plug it into the diffuse, and let's see how our unwrapping job looks. Not too bad, although you can kind of see the seam on this portion and a little bit of white there. So let's just quick tweak that, but it's not too bad overall. So let's just tab in edit mode on that and select it all. Let me go solid view, tab in edit mode on the carrot, select it all, go back to rendered. And at this point you can kind of get that seam hidden by just kind of moving around your individual faces here and finding one that will match up a bit better. So let me scale this one down just slightly and just kind of match up. You see like these ridges here. If you kind of match those up, that's the more important part. And actually, let's try flipping our second UV map. So if I scale it along the Y, -1, it will basically flip it. And there we go. Now it is matching up a lot better. So you want to do that, and it will match up a lot better. So basically, just scale your 1/2 along the Y, -1 in the UV image editor. And you can see it hides the seam a lot better because the textures are now matching from this point to that point. So great. And you can kind of match up the texture even better if you kind of use that. And that's how you hide your seam. So that looks great. A little bit of white showing there. Let's just grab these vertices here and just pull them up a tad. So no white is showing. And perfect. So great unwrapping job right there. And we can just switch over to node editor now and edit the materials. So let's go to solid view as well. And so for the materials in this, it's pretty simple. It's basically a bump map, a glossy, and a subsurf. So let's first add in that well, let's add the subsurf in. No, let's do the glossy first. Glossy will be a little bit faster, and the subsurf will slow down our render time a little bit. So let's just do the glossy first. So Shift A, add a mix shader, and Shift A, add in a glossy shader. Plug that glossy in, give it about a 0.15, and take the amount down to about a 0.1. And now let's add that bump in. So we're going to add in a vector bump. We're going to have the height controlled by the color, but we're also going to plug in a color ramp. Let's just go converter color ramp in there to be able to adjust that a little bit better for the height of the bump map. And then go ahead and plug the bump into the glossy and into the diffuse. All right. So before I go back to rendered view now, there's one add-on that I'm going to enable that will make life a little bit easier on us. And that is going to be add-ons node wrangler. So this is an add-on I've been using recently. It's also known as efficiency tools, node efficiency tools. And it really helps speed up your workflow, especially if you're used to working in the compositor where you're control shift clicking to view your node, this actually works in the materials. Every time you can control shift, you see you get this viewer node pop up, and this is a little bit of a node setup that gives you an emission strength and basically plugs it into an emission shader and right into the surface, and you can switch around to see what that material looks like isolated with an emission shader applied to it. So it's really cool. You just have to remember to go back to your original material after you've made your changes. But it's really cool, and it really speeds up your workflow. So I'm going to go rendered view now. And you can see we have the bump and the glossy applied to that. It's just overly strong. So first I'm going to adjust my color ramp. So go ahead and control shift onto that and have your viewer set up so you can see what you're getting. I'm just going to pull the black up to about that point before you get the solid crushed blacks, but right to about that point. And then crank the white up as well, just to the point before you crush the whites, and keep the detail. So something like that is going to be good. Alright, and now let's take the strength down on a bump to about a 0.6, and let's see what that's looking like. So not too bad, except still too strong. So let's take that down to about a 0.3, and that's looking a bit better. You can see the glossiness coming along there. 0.2 might even be more proper. You don't want too much bump. And that looks nice. So let's add that subsurface now. This is going to slow our render time down a little bit. Subsurface isn't very fast yet. And if you're using GPU, you can also have to change over to experimental. But let's go ahead and duplicate that mix shader and now add in our subsurface scattering shader. So shader, subsurface scattering. Now you might see a lot of options and be kind of confused. Basically these two bottom ones you don't even have to worry about. It's basically the sharpness and texture blur of what you see through it. And so this can be for fine tweaking your subsurface scattering node. I don't even use it that often, but it's nice to have the options there. So first off, let's plug the color into the color. Good. Now let's plug in the bump map to the normal. Alright, so now we have scale and radius. The scale is going to basically be how much subsurface you get coming in, and the radius is going to be basically the colors. This is red, blue, green, I believe, and the color of the subsurface scattering that you'll see through it. So I want it to be mainly red and a little bit of green and not as much blue. So I'm going to change this to be about a 0.3 in the red, a 0.2 in the blue, and maybe a 0.25 in the green. Alright, and I'll turn the scale just to 1, and then I'll plug this into my mix shader, and we'll give it about a 0.3 in the subsurface scattering. Alright, so let's see how those settings work for us. If we go rendered view, you should see the subsurface scattering at work. So if you're confused at what subsurface scattering is, basically it's the light passing through, and you use it on things like fruit and stuff where light will naturally pass through. You can see it working there. You get that amount of light coming through the bottom of the carrot there. It looks good. And if I turn the amount up, you see it very strong there coming through. So we can tweak our settings, we can tweak our scale and get the amount that we want. Maybe just a 2 would be good. You can kind of get away with a lot of it on a carrot, but you don't want to go too much still. And I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to call it good, and we'll move on to the next material. Alright, so let's move on to texturing his arms now. The arms are going to be pretty simple. Nothing too scary about texturing these. So just grab the arm there, tab in edit mode, select it all, and we need to create a quick UV map, just like we did for the carrot. So I'll go ahead and open my image first. We'll go UV image editor. We have our carrot there, and this is going to be just another texture from CG Textures. Again, you can find the link in the description for it. But it's a nice bark texture there. And I'm just going to go U, and I think I can get away with smart UV projecting on this. So do that. You get your UV map coming out there nicely. And we're ready to add a material to it. So new material, boom, right there. Let's go to our node editor, and let's add in that texture. So texture, image texture, plug her in, and grab the bark texture. Now for this texture, I might want to adjust the amount it's repeated across the arm. So I'm also going to throw in a texture coordinate node and a converter or vector mapping node, plug in UV to the vector, and then the vector to the vector. And now the scale here will control the number of times the texture will be repeated. Alright, so if I go rendered view, we got our bark there. It looks pretty good though. I might not need to repeat it at all. And not too bad. What is this that I'm getting in here? This is kind of weird looking. That is bizarro. Let me quick see if there's anything on that mesh that would be doing that. That is weird. Let me go ahead and recalculate the normals. And if you go to your shading, you'll have the option to, whoops, there we go, recalculate normals. Just do that. And see if we're getting that still. Yeah, what is that? That has me confused. What if we add a material to this guy? Let's just go new material for now. Huh. That is weird. We'll have to come back to that, but what is it? It's one of those phenomenons you can't explain. It's strange, but I'll come back to that. So, working on the arms. Don't mind that. It's acting weird. Yeah, I don't know. But working on the arms, let's add some glossiness to that bark. So I'm going to go texture, shader, mix shader, I'm sorry, and glossy shader. Just like before, we'll plug that in there, and we'll also want to create a quick bump for that. So we'll do a vector bump, and take the color into the bump. We'll just do, we don't have to tweak this because it's not that critical. Just go 0.1, normal. And we'll see what that bump looks like. Well, it looks like it's very glossy. But we got the bump coming in there too. You can see that it's nice and subtle. Maybe a little too subtle. Just a little bit more might be good, but not too bad. Now to control the amount of glossiness, I am going to use a color ramp for that. So I'm going to go converter color ramp. We'll plug the image texture into it, and we will we'll kind of tweak this to be the factor now of that glossy. So if you plug into the factor, you see right away you get less glossy. Now I can tweak this even more, but I'll give it a little bit of black, and the more black you give it, the less glossy you'll have, because basically the white is nothing, and the black is nothing, and the white is full glossy. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll pull the glossy up a little bit more, so you get a nice bit of glossy across the whole thing, but it's a little bit sharper. Again, if you go Control Shift, you can see what it looks like, and you don't want to crush the blacks, but you want to get it as black as it can be without crushing it, basically losing detail. So that looks pretty good, right around there. Now I'm going to take the white value down to a darker color, and this will basically reduce the amount of glossiness. So this is how you control the amount of glossy, by changing the color of your white value. Nothing is nothing, or black is nothing, and that is about a good amount right there. Maybe increase the bump just a little bit on that bark. Looks kind of good. I might be able to go to 0.2 without going too far. And let's give it a little bit more glossy there, but we don't need too much. So that's pretty nice. Not too bad. We might just want to adjust the overall colors of the bark. You can do this by throwing a color right there and a hue saturation value on your texture. So then we can kind of, if we want it to be a little darker wood, take the value down a little bit, darkens the wood up a little bit. Nice, not too bad. And yeah, that's not too bad. I like it a little bit darker. And that looks like it's a pretty nice bark texture. Now we can increase the bump even more, and if you wanted to, like I might do now, I might throw a color ramp in there just to give a little bit more control over the bump here. So let me just quick check that. Let's just crank the black up a little bit, not much with the black, and then crank the white up a little bit more there. Cool. And let's see what that looks like now if I go back. That's a little bit better. So that's the bark material done and dusted. Not too shabby. All right, so now that we have the wood material there finished, let's do the rock material. First, I want to quick show you guys the solution to that weird rendering problem we get when I go rendered. Figured it out real quick. It's just because we have the mirror modifier applied, but these are on both sides, so it's basically duplicating faces over the top. and giving ourselves problems. So in face select mode, all you have to do is select everything to the left of your mesh there, and go X delete faces, and then tab out of it. And you want to also make sure you have clipping turned on. And then if you go rendered view, you can see all clean and gone. Perfect. Exactly what we want. So let's work on our rock material real quick. Just give that rock a new material there. Tab into edit mode, and we'll go U, sphere projection. So we get a nice crazy sphere shape projection. Go ahead and do that on all of your rocks. U, sphere projection. Tab, select everything. U, sphere projection. All right, so let's use this main one here for the material setup. And let's first bring in our image texture as always. So this image texture is just a rock layered texture from CG Textures. And again, link in the description. Don't panic. Okay, so if we just went rendered right now, though, it would look pretty bad. And that's because it's way too bright. It needs to be nice, dark, black, charcoal colored rock. So to get that, I'm just going to add in a color, RGB curves. And I'm just going to take the color way down into the black value. Just not going quite too far. You don't want to hit the point of no return. But something like that will give you a pretty good result. Nice and dark. Alright. And then you can also go into the red channel if you didn't want so much red. Take that down just a tad. Tweak it just a little bit there. Let me see. Alright, there we go. And so on and so forth. That looks to be about good to me. So I'll stick with it. You could darken it even more if you wanted. You could throw a hue saturation value on that, but that looks pretty good. So what I'm going to do now is add in the little bit of glossy. So shader, mix shader, and shader glossy. Plug the glossy in the bottom, and let's just give it a very small amount. We'll go 0.03. You can see it in there just a little bit. And okay, that's pretty good. Let's give it a 0.15 in the roughness. 0.15 is good. You can see a little bit harsher. And now you guessed it, we just need to add in that final bump. So bump, grab the texture there, plug it in the height. Let's choose invert, because I think it will work better in this case. And the strength will be about a 0.25. Whoops, 0.25. And let's also throw a color ramp in there to tweak our texture. Alright, so Control Shift. With our add-on enabled, we can see this now. Let's bring the black values up a little bit more there. And let's just darken the white a little bit here. Boom. There we go. Nice. So that should make a good bump texture. Let's plug it in and see what we get. So I'm just plugging it into the normal and the diffuse and glossy. Then Control Shift our material to see what we're getting. And you can see you get that nice a bit of bump coming through. Might be too strong. Let's go 0.1 on the roughness value there. But it doesn't look too bad. And you can see when you move around, you get the glossiness on that stone coming through. You can tweak the amount of bump. That might be a little bit strong looking closely at it. But that's pretty good. And it doesn't look too bad. I do think the texture might need to be just a little bit darker. So I'll go ahead and throw in a color hue saturation. And we'll just take the value down a little bit on that to about a 0.4. And there we go. Nice. So with that rock texture finished, we can just grab that material, this one, or that rock, and then shift right click that one, and that one, then select that one last again, and we'll go Control L, link materials. So they should all have the rock material on them. Perfect. So the rocks are done, the arm's done. Now it's time to do the last few things here, which is the body, the eyeballs, and the eyelids. So the eyelids and the eyeball center is going to be the same material. And let's go ahead and add that material in now. We'll just make another material on our mesh here. So add in a second one if you already have one on it. And we'll just name this black glossy. Oh, that's not right. Here we go. And let's make that a black color. Or almost black. Doesn't have to be completely black, but pretty much black. And then I'm going to quick add in a mix shader and a glossy shader. So shader, glossy, plug the glossy in the bottom. And we're going to make this roughness to be very harsh. So I'm going to go 0.02. and then we'll only mix it in a little bit. So let's just go 0.1, and we'll see where that gets us. So let's go ahead and assign that to the eyebrows. So grab that eyebrow, just hover over it and hit L. Should select that and assign it. You want to make sure that you hit assign right there. Let's go ahead and change the viewport color of this material to be black too, just so we can see that it's assigned to it nicely there. Cool. And if I go rendered viewport, you get that nice glossy material on the eyebrows. Might be too glossy. So what we can do is just turn the amount down to be 0.02. So you get that nice glossy, but just not over the top. And let's make the roughness a little bit brighter. Let's go 0.05. So we can see we get like that white coming on it. That's nice, but you don't get too much reflections. Perfect. So let's go ahead and give the same material to the inside of his eyeball so we can actually see something. So grab that center vertice on the eyeball. You'll have to switch to vertice select there. Grab the center one, and then just go Control plus a few times till about there. Let's see what the real Olaf looks like here. Yeah, that looks about right. We'll start with that. Let's see where it goes. Grab the black glossy and assign it. Boom. He has eyeballs. And if I go rendered, you can see it doesn't look too bad. Not too bad at all. Let's just tweak his mesh a little bit now. I think his mesh, his eyebrows up here need to come out a little bit. Just kind of noticing that now. So with proportional editing on connected, I'm just going to pull it out. Let's scroll the proportional editing down a bit so we're not changing the eyebrow. Pull that out a little bit. Pull it down a little bit. And just overall kind of tweak these eyebrows a little bit. Let's grab that texture, that diversity back there a little bit. Pull that out. Give him a nice... Whoops, this one is coming out too far now. Nice kind of rounded eyebrow shape. Whoops, don't want to grab that. Might have to pull this out a little bit, which means we'd have to adjust the eyebrow a little bit up here as well to come out. But no biggie, it's not that hard. Alright, so yeah, you can see once you add the eyelid, you might notice some changes that would benefit the mesh. But overall, everything is looking pretty nice to me. And let's not take too much time doing this. It looks a little bit sad now. Let's pull that center one up a little bit. There we go. Nice. And there we go. Cool. This one I think here is the main one that's making him look sad. Alright, that doesn't look too bad. There's kind of a lip in there though, which does kind of look bad. So let's just grip. Not that. Let's hide the eyebrow real quick. Grab it and just hide it. And let's pull this down in there a little bit. Pull this down and back a little bit. And then this one will be on top. There we go. You don't want that lip in the inside there. You could even add another edge loop possibly in there. And that's looking a bit better. Cool. Let's just pull that down a little bit. Pull those in a little bit. And let's Option H, unhide that now. Not too bad. Needs a little bit of tweaking, but yes, it's okay. Let's pull that back in a little bit there. Let's pull that one back in a little bit there too. You can also just move his entire eyeball back a little bit if it needs to be. But yeah. I'll grab that first. Pull it out just a little bit. That one, pull it out just a little bit. And that one, pull it out just a little bit. Alright, cool. That looks good enough to me for now. He does look slightly sad, but not too sad. Not sad enough to make me want to change it. Just double tap G, pull this down a little bit. I think the main reason is this does need to come out more. I'm just kind of afraid to have to tweak the eyebrow, but I do think it needs to be done. So sometimes you just have to do it. And that looks pretty good. Cool. So let's move on to the next part. Let's move these eyebrows down a little bit too. There we go. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. Move it up just a tad. Maybe scale it just a tad now too. Whoops. We want to make sure that's Clipping is no longer on if we scale the eyeball because we don't want it to be merging over there. Cool. And pull that one out of there just a tad. And back a tad. And down a tad. Alright, that looks nice. I'm going to go with that. So let's add the white material. So we need a white glossy material for the eyeball. I know white glossy seems like you wouldn't see any glossy if it's white already, but you do. So I'm going to make a new material, white glossy. We're not going to make it completely white. We'll leave it at the 0.8. That is default. And I'll add in a shader, mix shader, and a shader, glossy shader, and do it just like the black, except this time white. We'll go a small amount of glossy. I forget how small we went. What did we do? 0.02? Yeah, let's go 0.04. And about a 0.04 here as well for the roughness. And go rendered. Well, no, we gotta quick apply it. Let's grab the whole eyeball. And we want to unselect these rings. So just Option H, right click. You can unselect the ring there and there. Cool. Assign the white material here. And if I go rendered view, whoops, that's not rendered view, that's rendered view. You can see the eyeballs have that glossiness. Excellent. Except the carrot looks like it's interacting with the eyeballs. Yeah, the carrot's hitting the eyeballs. That looks weird. I think the carrot needs to come out a little bit, maybe being scaled down a little bit. Maybe come down a little bit too. There we go. Can't be hurting the eyeballs so much. His eyeballs might need to come up on his head a little bit there. But that's not too bad. So let's go rendered. And that's looking better. Excellent. So one thing now, and I think it's the last thing, is the overall Olaf materials. Let's do that. So for the overall Olaf material, what we're going to do is basically we need to unwrap him. But we're not going to be picky about it. We're just going to go smart UV project right there. And give them an unwrap job. You can see what we get up here. We'll be perfectly fine for what we need to do now. And that is going to our base material here and setting up a simple material. So the material I'm going to do is going to be purely procedural, just using textures straight out of Blender. So I'm going to go ahead and add in a noise texture. Let's tweak these settings a little bit. I'll give it a detail of about 8. And I'll give it a scale factor of about 350. So I want a really high detailed noise texture with a bunch of just little black and white dots, basically. And this is going to control the glossiness of Olaf. So the main diffuse texture here I'm going to take to be a little bit darker, just slightly snow colored, maybe a tad to the blue, but don't really need to. Could pretty much leave it just a grayish, slightly gray. And then I'm going to add in a mix shader and a glossy shader. Alright, so plug the glossy in the bottom, and this is going to control the amount of glossy now. So let's go ahead and add in a color ramp, converter color ramp, and this will tweak the noise texture. So if I switch to rendered view here, you can see we have the glossy material on him right now. I'm going to go Control Shift. And that will show me what the noise texture looks like. And if I zoom in, you can see it there. Basically, I want to give it more black. Pull the black up till you see a lot of black. And then pull the white up till you see a lot of white. There you go. So pull it up nice and tight, and then you'll get that. And that's pretty much what I'm looking for. All right. Not too bad. Cool. Now this can go ahead and be the factor for the glossy. But you still have some issues. First of all, it's too glossy, and that's because there's too much white. So we can reduce the white a little bit, but you need to have the white varying from the black. So you can see that helps. And now if I zoom in, my texture is working like I want it to be. So you basically just have to tweak the black and white values a little bit here so you don't have any solid glossiness. And the scale might be a little high on this. No, 350 is pretty good. Okay, so you see the glossiness coming through there nicely. Now the last thing I want to do to control the factor here is I'm going to go Shift A and add in a input fresnel. And this will allow me to basically have the glossiness more towards the edges of our mesh, which is realistic to real life. The edges of things always look more glossy than straight on. So I'm going to basically take this and multiply it over this. So I'm just adding in a mix node here, dropping it in there, switching it to multiply, and then plugging the IOR value fresnel node into the bottom. We'll take that to a 1. And then let's control shift on our fresnel node to see what we're getting. And you can see we have the fresnel, you call it, coming in there nicely. And I'll crank it up a little bit so it's not too dark and black. I'll go about a 1.6. Okay, and then once it's multiplied onto that, you see we get that. And then you go to the mix shader, and it looks like that. So you might not want to multiply it 100% because you still want that glossy a little bit harsher there. So I might go 0.6 in the multiply, and this will just bring in a brighter surface around the outer edge and less around the center parts of the mesh. So that looks pretty good. Maybe make that a 0.8 value, and maybe take this down to about a 1.5. There you go. You can see the brighter values around the sides now, and the darker in the inside. And that just looks a little bit more realistic. So final thing is going to be to increase the intensity of this. So I'll just plug in or grabbing my last material there. What I'm going to do is just add in a vector math, drop that in there, and change it to multiply. And I'll just multiply this by like 6, and that will really bring out the glossy bumps there. So 6 might be a little strong, maybe multiply by 3, but you can see the value get intensified now through that multiply node, and then it gives you more control over it. So there we go. I can even take this down a little bit now. Check that. Yep, looks pretty good. So there we go. Actually, let me go up with that. I'm sorry. Yeah, let's go up with that. 0.9 would be good, I think. And then we go to that. And it looks pretty nice. So last thing would be to add a little bump if you wanted. And, oh, can't forget the subsurf. So the subsurf really adds a lot to Olaf because he's a snowman. So obviously the subsurf plays a big part in it. So let's do that now. I'm going to duplicate this mix shader. And I'm going to add in a shader, subsurface scattering. Alright, cool. I'm going to leave this at the default colors, except I'm going to give the color a slight blue. Alright, that looks nice. And let's go ahead and plug that in the bottom. And you can see just right off the bat, he looks better with that plugged in. Too much, obviously, but he looks better. So let's turn the amount down to about 0.25. There we go. And let's change the scale down to about a 0.5. So he doesn't have so much of it. But it really adds to the overall snowman look of him. And if I go to this view where you can see the sunlight coming through him, you can see it playing its role in there as well. So cool. Everything looks like it's working pretty nicely now, almost finished. Let's give his tooth there. Let's grab that, hit L. Let's give that the white glossy material. Alright. And go rendered view now. You can see his tooth is a different color. And let's give those twigs the material they need up here. Let's just tab into edit mode. Smart UV project. Alright. And then just give them the bark material we created there. That's material 1. Just select it there and it will be linked to it. So now that has material as well. And everything is coming together nicely. Let me quick pull his eyebrows out a little bit. So I'm just going to grab the eyebrow there with L. Turn on proportional editing. Boom. Kind of pull those out a little bit more there. Yeah, that looks kind of good. Let me first hide the eyeball so I don't affect that at all. And then do that again. L select that and kind of pull it out. Boom. That looks pretty nice. Let's pull that back a little bit. Pull that out a little bit. Alright, let's Option H, unhide those eyeballs. And they need a little bit of tweaking, but everything looks pretty cool. So let me change back to connected so I'm not changing the eyeball. You don't want them to not be completely round. So the last thing that adds a bit of character to Olaf now is, oh, I can't see where this verse goes. This one, that one there, yes. Let me pull it out a little bit. Is giving him some eyebrows. I mean, not eyelids, more like it. It's more the correct term. And those are going to add in a lot to our character. So that looks pretty good. Could use some more tweaking, but I don't want to bore you guys by tweaking a lot. So there we go. We'll just keep it at that and say it's good. So yeah, the eyelids is going to add quite a bit to our character, and the way I'm going to do that is kind of a cheaty method, I guess. It's really I'm just going to select portions of his eyelid and give it a different material instead of like UV unwrapping him. You could do it either way. And I mean, this method worked really well for me, so I'm going to go ahead and do it this ways. So, how are we going to do it? I'm going to select, well, first let's make our material. So I'm going to town here with the tweaking, but gotta stop. Can't help it. You can see a little bit of an issue with the mirror modifier there. Just turn off, or leave clipping off. Pull that one vertex out, and then you can turn clipping back on. Alright, so yes, for the eyebrows, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my main material here and duplicate it. To duplicate it, I'm just going to go plus, grab material 2, which is that base material, and then click that 2 right there. And that basically duplicates it so I can change it now. And I'm just going to take the color of it to be a nice blue. And this is going to be the blue that you see around his eyelids there. It's kind of a bluish greenish actually, but it's mostly blue. Something like that. And I'm just going to select the rings in his eyes there. So let me hide his eyeball. Select that ring and then control. Select that ring and then select that ring there. And let's change the viewport color of this too so we can kind of see which ones are being assigned. There we go. And assign those. I think I'm going to have to assign one more too, because you just don't really see that enough. Let me go ahead and select the outer one there too, and assign. I need to select both faces there. Boom. Cool. So now you have that blue around his eyelid. You might have to pull it out or down at the bottom there to see it. Let me just do that. Get that eyelid showing at the bottom there nicely. Alright, there we go. Now you can see it down there. So that's like the bluish outline of the eyelid that you see. If I go rendered, it looks pretty nice, just a little bit bright. Let me just take the color down a little bit on that. I gotta switch over to solid view because my viewport's running kind of slow. And let's take the color down a little bit on that to be not quite so bright, but something like that looks good. And yeah, and now I'm going to do a little bit of black because you can see he has the black in there too. And then it will call it. I think that's going to be it then. I think we'll have our Olaf character pretty much wrapped up at that point. So the black, I'm just going to grab the faces in there a little bit tighter. Boom, 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 boom. If you go to face select mode, this might be easier. Just grab the row of black in there. I'll grab that one too. And we'll grab that one there. And grab the black glossy, assign it. And you can kind of see you have the black eyelids in there. You may have to kind of play with those vertices now though. Let me go to vertex select. Just kind of slide these around, double tapping G to pull those out a little bit. But you get the color variations you need. Cool. I can do the same thing with sliding these around a little bit too. And there you go. It adds a lot to his character, even though it's subtle, and looks just a lot better. So doing that gives us that results, and he suddenly has a lot more personality with that. So looks good. Like I said, you might have to, or might want to, continue tweaking his eyelids there until you're satisfied with them. But I'm pretty good with them now. So that is the materials. Let's give ourselves a final render real quick to see what it's looking like, but I'm pretty satisfied with him now. So let's just give him a plane to stand on. So go Shift S, cursor to center, Shift A, add in a plane, scale it up to about 5 or so, something big. And we need to move him forward to that plane. Let's just grab him, whoops, and his arms and everything else. Let's just box select them all. Pull him to the center plane there. Let's scale that plane up a little bit more too. And let's snap our camera to a nice view. Let me see what would look good. Right around there would be good. So Control Shift or Alt Control 0 will snap your camera to view. We'll just have to pull it out. I'm just going to do this by hitting G in my middle mouse wheel and pulling our camera view out there. Cool. We don't have to render a whole frame like that. Let's just make him 1080 by 1080. Boom. And 100%. We can pull him in a bit now. There we go. Let's kind of go from the side a little bit more maybe. Just moving around, double tapping R. And getting a nice view of Olaf the Snowman. Alright, that looks pretty good right there. I'll just rotate him a little bit now. Alright, so I'm going to choose transparent background right there and save. Let's just give this floor plane a 100% white color. Let's go new, make it 100% white. If I go render, let me see what that's looking like. Not too bad. Not too bad at all. So we can give him a nice full render, and I think his color might be just a little dark on his main material here. Let's just brighten that up a tad. There we go. Okay. Save. And let's do it at, I would say, 150 samples. And I'll give him a quick render, and then I'll be right back with you guys to take a look at how it looks. That might be a cuter angle right there. Alright, there we go. Yeah, maybe a little bit lower is better. Play around with the angle, get something you're satisfied with, and hit F12 to render. Be right back. Alright, so rendering gives us this result, which looks pretty decent. Not bad. We could do just a little color adjusting to really pull out the whites and blacks, but it's pretty sweet. So let's quick switch to compositing here. And you'll want to choose use nodes. If you don't see these two nodes, you need to choose use nodes there. They should pop up. And then backdrop as well. And then if you control shift on your render layer there, click, you'll get a viewer node popping up. Alright, so what I want to quick do is just throw in a white background there for him. And I'm just going to do this with the color alpha over. Pop it in and connect it to the bottom. And it just throws the white in there nicely. And now I'm just going to do a little bit of color adjusting real quick. So first I'll throw in a color balance here. So just color balance, and pop it in there. Cool. And let's pop that into the composite node there too. And then I want to do a few color adjustments inside the Blender scene settings here. So switching over to the scene settings here, I'm going to go to the color management and change the type to RRT. And this will kind of allow me to really pull out the blacks and overexpose it just slightly. So I'm going to crank the exposure up a bit here. Give it about a 1.1 or something. And you can see that just kind of overexposes it a little bit and just pulls the colors out a little bit. And I kind of like the way it looks then. Alright, and so if we want to adjust the shadows a little bit, we could just give them a little bit more blue or a little darker. With these adjustments here, adjust the highlights, we can give them a little bit of yellow color from the sun. But overall, that looks good. So we can make the brights just a little bit brighter too if we wanted to, not going too far. But that looks pretty good. Not bad. Pretty satisfied with that. I can do a little bit of a color adjustment there, but I like it. So I'm just going to shift space to bring that up full screen, and there's our finished Olaf character. So from nothing to this in a three-part tutorial series. I hope you guys had fun doing this, learned something, and enjoyed this. If you like this kind of character creation tutorial, let me know definitely, and I may be inclined to create more of them. This is the first of this type that I've done. But yeah, that's it. There's Olaf the Snowman from Frozen, and I'll be signing off now, and I'll see you guys later. So bye bye.